Alright guys, I got tagged by Scott from Oscar Outdoors in 5 tips for beginner wild campers, and so I'm just gonna go. I made a little list. I'm just up a little early before work and had this gorgeous sunset back here. Yeah, so first one I'm gonna start with is the 5 C's, and that's kind of, I think it was either Dave Canterbury or one of those guys came up with a little easy list to remember. But just for people who go out in the woods a lot, it's something you just kind of take for granted, to bring these things. But the 5 C's are cutting tool, container, cordage, combustion device, and cover. And these are things that are really important to consider. When you're wild camping, your space is finite, and so every inch or centimeter, as it were, makes a difference to what you can bring. So these are like kind of the bare essential list. If you can cover those bases, then everything else is a bonus, but you have to cover those and the rest will get taken care of, even if you forget something. So cutting tool obviously would be like a knife. Fixed blade obviously is ideal, but I mean any cutting tool will do. Pocket knife, folding saw, container, something to cook something in and something to store something in. So you got a cook cup is the easiest way. Most people do that, and then you can you can cook in it, you can drink out of it, you can boil water. So you got a lot of different options with a cup, but even just a simple, Nalgene or OEX bottle, that'll do. Cordage is a big one because being able to tie up your shelter or being able to, improvise, if you have a tent peg break or something, that's a way that you can fix gear. So I use paracord pretty often, but I'm testing out some smaller paracord. There's microcord. There's a lot of different options. Combustion device, a lighter, matches, anything like that'll do. Ferro rod, and then cover, and that can be something as simple as a rain jacket or a tarp or a tent or just some way to cover yourself up and kind of shield from the elements. So those the 5 C's is easy way for you to kind of go down a list and make sure that you have everything you need. At least that'll get you through the night. Number 2, I'd say test and prove your gear before you leave. So I happen to live in an area with quite a bit of trees right on my property, and I prefer hammock camping. So if I get something new, even if I'm not hammock camping, I can go test it in my yard, and then worst case scenario, I can always walk myself back inside if it gets too cold, too wet, whatever, if a piece of gear fails. So test it and know that it's going to work for you before you leave, and then you'll have that added bit of confidence. Number 3, know the conditions and the environment for where you're going to be going. So I live in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, and 3 out of 4 quarters of the year it's pretty wet here. So if I don't know the conditions, it might be cold, it might be wet, it might be snowing. It just depends on where I'm going, one, and also the type of weather that's going to be happening. And having the right gear planned around that is going to be essential to having a good time and whether or not you freeze at night. So I like to just make sure that I have that kind of sussed out before I hit the trail. Number 4, this is one that was shared to me quite some time ago by someone a lot smarter than myself, and but I use it on every single trip. And like I said, most of the year it's temperate here. It doesn't get too freezing, but most of the year it's pretty unseasonable. And I like to camp in the snow. I like foul weather camping. I've camped in 70-mile-an-hour winds, in freezing rain, and just my last kind of big wild camp, I'll try to insert a picture somewhere around here. I stayed on top of a mountain by myself. My group was down at the lake below, so I wasn't completely alone, but by myself in the snow. It's 10 degrees Fahrenheit, and I slept under a big rock in a bivy bag and made the best out of it. So this trick especially was helpful for me. That was a long-winded way to say this, but I have a Nalgene bottle, and every night before bed I boil a full cup or pot or whatever of water and dump it in the Nalgene bottle, and then I put that in my sleeping bag. It warms up my sleeping bag before I get in, and then when I get in, I keep it with me all night. And that way, when it's you know, down below freezing, it does two things. It keeps it from freezing, so I have a water supply that's liquid in the morning, but it also keeps you warm like all night, and I just kind of huddle up to that Nalgene bottle. So that's a really good trick, especially for new people. When somebody told me that the first time, I was like, man, why didn't I think of that? So that's a bomber. And number 5, at the end of the day, work with what you got. Obviously, bear all the other things in mind. So you got to have at least a certain, you know, bare essential of the right gear for whatever conditions you're going to be going in. And you don't want to go out with nothing. But if you don't have the perfect sleeping bag or the perfect hammock or the perfect rain fly or whatever that may be, still go out anyway. Find a way to get out there. Even if you just take a, you know, dollar store tarp and a Coleman sleeping bag, find a way to get out and try it out. And use some of the other tips that both Dan and Scott put in their videos. And then kind of tied with that is, like, if it didn't work for you, you can always try something new. So this is all about having fun, getting out there and trying things out and getting confident with what you have. So I hope you like that list. So I got tagged obviously by Scott from Oscar Outdoors. I picked people either that I recently had spoken to on YouTube or a channel that I've been following for quite some time. So I'm going to start with Chesapeake Hammock and Outdoors, tagging you. I'd like to see your 5 tips for beginner wild campers. He's got a pretty cool channel, and like I said, I'm a hammock camper, so I definitely I like his take on things. He's been hammock camping for a while, and he's got a lot of cool gear. Hippyswift, he's another UK guy. If you follow Oscar Outdoors, and you'll see, you know, when I come out with some content here in the future, I really like snug pack gear. Hippyswift is another snug pack connoisseur, I'll say. So, all right, let's hear it, Hippyswift. Let's get 5 tips for beginners. Really Big Monkey 1. If you don't know his channel by that name, then you may know it by Fun in the Outdoors with Dave. He's probably the guy who got me into the bushcraft side of things and just more skill-based outdoors. And the guy you can tell he loves being outside. He is always laughing. He takes his son out a lot. And so Dave, I really want to hear your 5 tips because, yeah, like I said, you really kind of got me into the bushcraft side of outdoors. Another UK-based channel, Cotton Bud. I've just been talking to him, you know, I noticed his videos on a suggested video and really beautiful cinematography. And I mentioned how he didn't talk very much in one of his videos. So I'm gonna challenge him. I want you to make a video basically only of you talking. So let's hear your 5 tips. And finally, another US-based, Robert's Bushcraft. And I haven't been watching your channel for that long, but I just found it and I found the content really useful. And it's a father and son who are really into outdoors, bushcraft, and definitely the wild camp side of things. So Robert's Bushcraft, let's see your 5 tips. I'll put all the tags down in the description, as well as Oscar Outdoors. He tagged me, so you can check his channel out, watch his video, but also his buddy who tagged him, Dan from the English Woodsman. So I'll put both those channels up above, and then all my tags down below. All right, see you in the next one.